This is Shawn Irwin, your youth director with Darts Ontario, and welcome to episode 36 of Darts Ontario Let's Talk Darts. I wanted to talk to our youth players from past and present to see how they got into darts and their story to help inspire youth dart players of today. Thank you to our sponsor, SSS Canada, for all the support in the Darts Ontario organization. Make sure you go to their Facebook page to see the high quality custom dart shirts, which you can order for your team or individually. I'm with Carolyn Rossignol, formerly of the Kingston Youth Dart League and the first junior female to go to nationals, which was way back in 1986. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for coming on and doing an episode of Darts Ontario Let's Talk Darts. So how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure because we go back to the days that I played darts with Darts Ontario, and that's what we're going to talk about. So take us back. Take us back to when you started playing darts, and how old were you?
Oh goodness, how old was I? I still to this day could not tell you how old I was, but what I can say is I still remember being in the basement with my dad and having this little child's chair, and I would have to stand on that to get any darts out from the bullseye to the double three. Anything that went above the bullseye, my dad had to pull out for me. So I think I was probably about 5 or 6 when I first started.
And who inspired you to play competitively?
That would be my dad. My dad played all around leagues when I was a little girl and tournaments on weekends. And he actually helped Marjorie Smith, or he and Marjorie both kind of started the Kingston Youth League.
What was your dad's name?
Arnold Adams.
Arnold Adams. Okay. I've heard that name for sure. So tell us about your experience, because you played in the Kingston Youth Dart League, and how was that playing in a youth league?
It was really cool. I mean, I think back to that time, and youth darts was really just becoming a thing. It really hadn't existed so much, and adults really didn't know how to deal with kids playing darts. There was stigma sometimes when you go out and play in tournaments. I still remember playing with Alana Rose when we were about 18 and 17 maybe, and going to a women's tournament and doubles, and this other team from Quebec came up and said, "Oh, we've got an easy round. These are kids." And Alana opened with a 140. I came back with a 140. She came back with something else, and 2 shots later we finished the game, and the girls, the other 2 women kind of looked at each other like, "Oh my goodness, where did these 2 come from?" And so that was very interesting. And even when we went to nationals in '86, that was our first time as junior girls being at nationals. And so all of these adults, they would come over and watch us because it was a several day long event for the youth, and the adults from all of the different provinces would come over and watch. And there were some mighty good darts at all levels, juniors, seniors, male, female. And so it was interesting to watch the adult reactions to seeing some of the scores and stuff. So
they knew what was coming up in the near future. So, so how often did you practice during the season, and did you practice during the off season?
As a kid, probably not as much. I mean, I played every day, whether we were in season or off season. We had a board set up in the basement, and I would go down and play that. I would play games by myself, or my dad would come down and join, and we'd play, an hour or so a night, probably.
And how did you make practicing fun? Because it's never as fun as a real game.
I didn't learn how to do that probably until my 20s. And that I always played 170 and see how many the least amount of darts that I could do that in. I did around the board, around the world, with doubles and triples, and counted how many darts it would take me. I also used to do 10-shot averages. So I would take 10 shots and find my average and keep trying to improve that as I would go. Just different games like that. A lot of that was just stuff that I came up with on my own. I didn't realize that there were other games out there till a lot later. Like now I play 121 when I get a chance.
There's some great practice games. And when I played way back in the 80s, there was a book that was published in the 70s of dart games. And there's so many fun, different dart games to play.
Yep. I kind of remember that book now.
Now, how did you prepare yourself before a big match and get yourself focused?
I don't know that I ever did. My first tournament was actually provincials. I had never played in a tournament until then. So I didn't even really understand in my head what was going on beyond, youth darts on Sundays at the Legion. And then in March, we went to this provincial shoot, which sounded kind of interesting. And I just, you take it game by game. And that's all that I would do is you stay in your head for the one game. And it didn't matter what you shot, you just, it was done, you moved on to your next shot, and you try to keep focused on what was coming, not getting ahead of yourself and not berating yourself for what you did.
We always talk about being focused and being focused on the line and not worry about your opponent's score, especially during a big match, and knowing that if you lose, you're done.
Yeah.
So let's look back at your experience as a youth player with Darts Ontario.
Sure.
1986 was the first year for youth female players at the Darts Ontario Provincials. The previous 2 years were only for the males. Were you playing in the leagues in 84 and 85 while the boys were playing provincials?
No, Kingston League formed in maybe the fall of 85, I think, is when we started. And then, like I said, our first tournament that the league played, because back then we didn't do zones. So we packed up, 3 cars worth of kids, and we headed off to Ottawa to play in this tournament in a hotel, which, I mean, it all seemed insane and weird and okay, this is what we're going to do.
So your provincials in 86 was in Ottawa?
Yes. I can still remember the hotel. I can still remember Christy Smith locking the keys in the trunk to Marjorie's vehicle.
So you knew Marjorie Smith at that time, which became Alderdice, which we all know
Yes.
nowadays. So she was there right from the beginning of your dart career?
Yes, she was.
She was a big support for so many youth.
Yeah, she was. And she still is.
Absolutely. So we sure miss her. Take us back to 1986. You're saying there was no zone shoot, so you went straight to provincials. Tell us about your experience at the first provincials, and where only the winner of each division actually moved on to nationals. So only 4 went. How was that experience at provincials?
It was very interesting. It was a knockout format. So it wasn't, there wasn't a loser bracket. So you had to win all the way along. You could not lose a match. And I think I probably did 6 or 8 rounds. I forget now how many rounds it was, but there were quite a few of them. And it was so new to me. I didn't even know how to grasp what was happening. And, I keep running back to my dad going, well, what do we do now? What do we do now? And he'd say, just wait, just focus on what you're doing. Don't worry about the next. Focus on what you're doing. And so we kept doing that. And then I was up on stage and I was like, this is weird. And then people were cheering and that was kind of cool. And so that was kind of the experience that I had. But, my dad was really big about whether you win or you lose, you do it with the same grace. So you keep the smile on your face, you thank your opponent for a great game, and you move on. But you don't do extra celebrations. You don't do extra upsets when you lose.
I teach all the kids that is we have to learn how to win and learn to lose.
Yeah.
It's all about the sportsmanship.
Absolutely.
So take us back on the stage that day that you actually won and became the junior female champion and were able to go to nationals. How was that experience on stage with so many people watching you?
It was surreal. I mean, to be quite honest, I mean, I never experienced anything like that before, and I really didn't know what to do. Before I went on stage, I still remember Dad saying, just focus on what you're doing. Don't look up, just focus on what you're doing. So I went up there. The weird thing was I still remember the raised okie, because everything else had just been a piece of tape on the ground, which is what I kind of grew up with. But when you got up on stage, there was this thing that you could trip on all the time. So having to learn how to walk around that was interesting, but it was surreal. It was just, focus on your one shot and keep moving on.
And you did it. So now staying with provincials, in 1989, as a senior, you placed second in Ontario behind, if I can get this name right, Tanya Klinkermally, and you made Team Ontario again. Take us back to 1989 and take us throughout the day of provincials leading up to the finals and being on stage once again.
So provincials that year was a little different because it was, we did zones first. So you had to qualify your zone and then you moved on to provincials, which I believe started with a round robin format. Uh, I want to say we were in Brampton or something, somewhere around there when we did that one. Uh, there were a lot of kids, a lot of players, a lot of good darts. And so I remember it was a long day of darts and just kept moving forward again, trying to stay in the moment.
Well, you did amazing with making Team Ontario again. And besides 1986 and 89, how were your results in the other years of playing provincials?
Uh, so provincial youth, those were the only years that I made the team. I still remember playing in them, but again, it was just a tournament to me at that point. I didn't really grasp the idea of provincials, I think, until after 89. I think 89 is when I really understood, as I started moving towards the adult leagues and the adult version of Darts Ontario, what provincials really was. So to me, it was just another tournament. We keep moving and you keep playing and you keep trying.
Well, you kept playing because in 1986, next up was Nationals in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and you
Yeah,
finished joint third in junior female singles. Talk to us about your experience at Nationals and finishing in the top four in Canada.
sure. In fact, that one I remember very clearly because it was so weird. We drove to Halifax to be in nationals. They put all of us in one round robin. So all of the junior girls played one round robin together. And then the top four coming out of that played knockout for the nationals. I had won all but one. No, I may have even won all matches that time. I came out of round robin first. And so then I was playing in the semifinals, and I still remember double 18 got me, and I could not hit that for anything. But again, it was, you win and you lose with the same amount of grace. And so I shook my opponent's hand, and I went and rooted her on in the finals as well.
Now, did you play just singles or was there other events at that?
No, there was just singles. It seems to me it was a 2-day event for singles for junior girls. We played in one side of the room, and then the adults were playing on the other side. So we got to watch a lot of great darts. We got to be involved in some really great events because Canadian Open was right behind it. And the youth were able to participate in that, which I don't know if they had before or not, quite honestly, but judging by some of the responses that we got and the adults seeing the youth for the first time, that was, I think that might have been the first year that really occurred.
Mhm. Now, in 1989, you were back to Nationals, which was held in Montreal, Quebec. How was this experience different than the first Nationals, and what were some of your highlights?
There were a lot more people. At that point, we had, I believe, 2 from each division moved on. So there were 8 of us representing Team Ontario instead of just 4. It was a grander event in that, when in 86, we had 2 shirts and we walked in and we all just kind of did our own thing. And in 89, we kind of had almost like an opening ceremony where we walked in and really represented Ontario, which was a little different than the feeling in 86. And it was really cool to be able to do that. And then we did round robin, and then we did some knockouts beyond that as well.
Now, any other memories in youth darts that stand out? Doesn't have to be an actual game, but before we talk about adults, anything that really stands out?
Um, I mean, I think the Nationals in 86 was probably the coolest thing that I remember as a kid, let alone all the friendships that were made. I mean, I made friends with with the Manitoba team. I mean, we got to meet some really great people and make some lifelong friends, which I think is a lot of what darts is about too, in that social aspect of it. Um, but being able to be there and show adults that kids could play darts and play well. I think that was a great thing to be part of.
Well, something we don't see too often is some older merchandise, memorabilia. Let's take a
Mhm.
look at your 1989 shirt.
Sure. I had to pull this out. I didn't even remember where it was until today. But yeah, this is the Team 89 shirt. Let me see if I can get it up somehow here. There's the logo, and then there it is. There's my name up top there. And the cool thing was the arm said Team 89 on it. And then of course the back is the old darts logo and our last names.
I remember that logo. Yep.
I still remember this one. We also had silver warm-up jackets. But I don't know why. I don't think it saved very well. I don't think over the years it saved very well. So I was able to save that, and it's a treasured memory, and it's something that I've kept since then, and I will continue to keep going forward.
Definitely. Now, you met a very good dart player back in 1989, you were just saying.
Yeah, in 86, actually.
86?
86, yeah.
Tell us about that experience.
Sure. So this, I don't know if that's going to show up very well, but I'm trying. That's Bob Anderson, and that's actually the Team Ontario shirt from back in 86. I still remember they were polyester and they itched like nothing. But I was so nervous at that championship that I didn't want to eat. And it was a week-long event. We got there a couple days beforehand and we practiced and learned the layouts and everything. And so my dad went over, Bob Anderson was having breakfast, and said, will you please come talk to my daughter? She's so scared. She won't eat. And all she does is practice on the board. And we practiced before nationals like 12 hours a day. And so he came over and he talked to me, and he was so sweet, and offered to take a picture with me, which was just something absolutely amazing. And then I got to meet him again as an adult. He came over on an exhibition trip, and we played in somewhere up by Ottawa. And so I got to play him as an exhibition, and that was awesome too.
Great experience. I met him once, and a true gentleman of the game, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So moving into the adult program, tell us about that transition going from youth to adults.
It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I think because I started playing tournaments before I actually got into the adult leagues. And I had some really great support and friends that played with me. Alana Rose up in Arnprior. Her and I played tournaments together quite a bit, and that was wonderful. I actually moved to Ottawa in '89. So I actually played my adult leagues out of the Ottawa area. So I started with a women's league there. So it was just women. I was the youngest one in the room. And so it was interesting to watch these women learn that younger players could really play too. So that was wonderful. And then I moved on, and I played in the Ottawa Super Singles League for a while too, and then another league up there as well, and played with Rhonda Maidment and Eva Snook, and a bunch of people up there. The Darts Ontario, we played the zones there. I played with Rick Tinker for a little while, and then Sean Brenneman and I were partners for a while, and Sean, Andy Penny and I would play mixed triples together in leagues around, or in tournaments around the area. So that was always fun.
Did you ever play the adult provincials?
I did several years, probably 1990 through almost 2000. I might have missed one year, but I don't recall missing a year. I think I made it just about every year on to provincials. Yeah. We did round robin the first day, and we played mixed doubles as well. And so we'd play on the first day. And then for whatever reason, my nerves would get the best of me. And on the second day, I'd get knocked out in knockouts somewhere along the line. And some days on the first day too. So, it's just how you're doing on that day.
It's a lot of competition, a lot of stress, and it's hard to control that sometimes.
Absolutely. But it was fun. It was always a great weekend and a great group of people to play with.
That's what it's all about. So now, we spoke recently, and you mentioned you moved to Tennessee 20 years ago and you left Canada. Was it 20
yeah, well, so 20 years ago, I met my husband, and we've moved, actually, he was in the Coast Guard. So we moved all around the United States. We started in Virginia, moved to Hawaii, Alabama, Virginia again, Tennessee. So we've been around for the past 20 years in different states.
Now, did you continue with darts when you moved south of the border? And are you still playing
No,
darts? No?
no, actually, when we moved to Virginia Beach, I couldn't find a league to play in. It wasn't as prevalent and it was very hard to find. So I put my darts up for about 15 years. I had stopped playing. So about 5 years ago, I started again. When we moved back to Northern Virginia, I was able to find a league there and started playing again, and had to put it down for some elbow work. I had to have surgery on my elbow, and then I got back into it again here in Tennessee. And then COVID happened, and I just had spine surgery. So once we get cleared for all of that, we'll be back on the boards again soon,
So
hopefully.
you got your dartboard ready for you to start playing again.
Absolutely. That was a requirement for our new house.
Now, have you played in any like competition down in the States while you played there?
I played in the Washington area dart tournament a few years ago. I just to get back into it. It was my first year playing again, but it still felt like old times getting back into the tournaments. So I'm looking forward to doing that again some more.
That's going to be your new hobby. And do you have any other hobbies today?
Right now, being a teacher, I have a 9-year-old who is learning and doing distance learning. So that's my big hobby right now is figuring out how all the technology works for schools and all the new ways of learning things that they're doing in school. But
Well, there's a lot of youth dart players in the States, so you never know.
we're actually my son really wants to start, so he's going to start in the spring. We're going to start playing.
That's
So I'm
great.
looking forward to
Great.
that.
Very well. I really appreciate this, but as we wrap this up, one more question. Any advice you can give to the youth who have set their goals to make nationals like you did?
Keep focused. While that might be your goal, play it one game at a time. And win, lose, or draw, you always do it with grace. Those are the two things I always told people, even when I was helping youth in the past few years, is just keep trying and keep focused. Don't think too far ahead, and don't think about your past shots, because just because you shot a 7 last time doesn't mean you can't come back with a 140.
That's right. Well, Carolyn, very good advice. Thank you so much for doing this. We wish you all the best in getting yourself back to normal and getting play some darts and reaching your goals. And hopefully we'll see you at some tournaments sometime.
Looking forward to it, Shawn. Have a great day.
You too. Bye now.
Bye.
That was great talking to Carolyn, talking about my era way back in the 80s when I played darts as well. So a lot of great history on how the Darts Ontario Youth Program started. Make sure you go to our website at www.dartsontario.ca to find out more information about our organization. Also go to the Darts Ontario Facebook page to get all the updates. Are you a current or former youth player in the Darts Ontario program? Would you like to be on one of our episodes? Please email me at youth@dartsontario.com. This is Shawn Irwin, your Darts Ontario Youth Director, and make sure you check out our next interview on episode 37 of Darts Ontario Let's Talk Darts. Thank you for watching and see you next time.